The night was cold on the rocky alien world. The wind blew through the canyon like a lonely voice, carrying dust and sharp little stones. The sky above was dark purple with two moons hanging like pale eyes. No fire burned. No creature sang. Everything was silent, except for one sound. A scream. It was not the scream of an animal. It was the scream of someone alive, someone in terrible pain. It echoed against the canyon walls again and again. The sound was high and sharp, then broken with gasps of breath. Down in the shadow of broken stones lay a young alien girl. Her long silver tail was trapped under a massive slab of rock. The stone pressed on her so hard that her body shook with every attempt to pull free. Her skin glowed faintly in the darkness as if small stars lived inside her veins. Her golden eyes filled with tears and her voice cracked as she cried, "Help! Someone please." Her words were in her own alien tongue, but her cries needed no translation. It was the voice of a child calling for mercy. She had been there for hours. At first she screamed with all her strength, believing someone from her people would come. But no one did. The law of her kind was cruel. A trapped one must be left to the will of nature. To help was forbidden. It was believed that fate must decide who lived and who died. And so even if someone hurt her, they would turn away. Her heart pounded with fear. Her throat burned. She thought of her mother's face, her family, her small home in the cliff caves. She thought she would never see them again. Her body trembled as the cold night air cut through her thin clothes. The stars above gave no answer. Then, footsteps. The sound was soft at first, barely more than a crunch of gravel. She froze, her ears twitching. Her breath caught. Someone was near. She hoped, she feared. Her eyes scanned the darkness. And then, from behind a jagged boulder, a shape appeared. Tall, straight, 2 legs, 2 arms. Not one of her kind. Something stranger. It was a human. The man's figure was lit by the weak moonlight. His face was shadowed by his helmet's visor, but she saw his outline clear enough. A pack on his back, rough clothes of a traveler, and eyes, human eyes that widened when they fell on her glowing body. The girl gasped, both afraid and hopeful. "Please, please help me." The human froze for a moment. He looked around as if expecting others to appear. The canyon was empty. Only the girl, the rocks, and the broken silence. He stepped closer. His boots crunched against the gravel. His breath fogged in the cold air. He stopped over her and stared at the heavy stone crushing her tail. His brow tightened. "You're trapped." His voice was quiet, almost a whisper, but full of concern. She could not understand his language, yet she felt his meaning in his tone. The girl reached for him with shaking hands. Her fingers trembled, her nails chipped from clawing at the stone. "Please, it hurts. Don't leave me." The human crouched beside her. His gloved hands touched the rock, testing its weight. His jaw clenched. It was heavy, too heavy for a single person. Yet he did not step away. The alien girl watched him, tears running down her cheeks. She saw something in his eyes, a fire she had never seen before. Her people's eyes turned away when they saw suffering. This man's eyes did not. The human placed both hands under the edge of the stone. He pushed, his muscles strained, veins rising in his arms. His breath hissed through his teeth. The stone did not move. Dust fell. The girl cried out in pain as the rock pressed harder with the shift. "Stop, please, stop, they will punish you." She screamed in her tongue, shaking her head. She knew what her people would do if they saw. To help her was to break the sacred law. To break the law was death. But the human did not understand her words. Or maybe he did not care. His eyes stayed on the stone. He pressed again, harder this time. His boots dug into the dirt. The muscles of his back tightened as he fought the weight of the unyielding slab. Minutes passed. Sweat rolled down his face. His hands bled where sharp edges cut through his gloves. Yet he kept trying. The girl sobbed, torn between hope and terror. In her heart, she felt a strange question rise. Why would he do this? Why would a stranger, an outsider, fight for her life when her own people would not? The canyon wind howled as if mocking them both. Somewhere high above, shadows moved along the cliff. Watching, waiting, the girl's golden eyes widened with dread. They were not alone. The lawkeepers were near. If they saw, the human would be hunted. Her voice broke as she screamed once more, not in pain this time, but in warning. "Run, run before they come for you." But the human only lowered his head, set his jaw, and pushed with everything he had. The stone groaned. Dust exploded upward. and the night trembled with the sound of defiance. The stone did not move. The human's hands shook from the strain and his breath came in short bursts. He pulled away for a moment, chest heaving, his gloves torn and red at the palms. The alien girl lay trembling, her tail still crushed beneath the weight of the slab. Her eyes glowed weakly in the moonlight. "You should not be here," she whispered in her own tongue, though her voice was faint and cracked. "They will punish you." The human did not know her words, but he understood her fear. Her golden eyes darted to the cliffs above, where unseen watchers might already be hiding. He followed her gaze for a moment, staring into the shadows. The canyon seemed still, but the air carried tension, like the silence before a storm. He turned back to her, and in his eyes there was something steady, something different, determination. The girl's kind had a law: never help the trapped. She knew it better than anyone. The law was older than memory. It was written into songs carved into stone. If one is caught by nature, fate has chosen. To interfere is to fight against fate itself. Even if her people found her, they would not move a finger. They would walk away, pretending not to hear her screams. To help was a crime. To help was rebellion. But this human was not one of her kind. He was an outsider, and outsiders did not always follow the law. The man knelt beside her again. He looked into her glowing face. His expression was firm, not cruel, but not uncertain either. Slowly, carefully, he spoke in his own language. "I cannot leave you." She did not understand the words, but she felt the meaning. His voice was low, steady, filled with a weight heavier than the stone itself. Her heart beat faster. "Why? Why would you break the law for me?" "You don't even know me." He only reached for the stone again. The girl shook her head in panic. She pulled at his sleeve with her small hand. "No, please, if they see you, they will destroy you. My people don't forgive." Her voice broke into sobs, not only from the pain in her tail, but from the terror in her chest. But the human did not stop. He braced himself again, planting his boots deep into the earth and pressed against the cold, sharp edge of the rock. His muscles strained, his arms trembled. The stone shifted only an inch, but even that made her gasp in pain and hope. "Why?" she whispered again, tears filling her eyes. For the first time, the human looked down at her. Not at her wound, not at the stone, but at her. His eyes were filled with something she could not name. It was not duty. It was not pity. It was something fiercer, warmer. She realized then, this man was not following law, not even his own survival. He was following his heart. The night wind roared through the canyon like a warning. Somewhere above, rocks tumbled, disturbed by hidden feet. The watchers were near. The girl's chest tightened. She knew the elders would not forgive what they were seeing. The human's jaw clenched. He leaned closer to the stone, pushing harder. His skin tore, his breath roared, but he did not stop. His voice rose, a growl of effort, a sound of pure defiance. The girl's eyes widened. For the first time in her short life, she saw someone fight not against her, but for her. Every muscle in the man's body trembled as the slab shifted another inch. A crack split the rock. Pebbles rained down. The sound echoed across the canyon like a drumbeat. The girl's heart raced. She felt hope and terror mix inside her chest. She whispered through her sobs, no one has ever done this." The human could not hear her words, but he saw her tears and they gave him strength. Then the shadows moved. On the cliffs above, figures appeared. Tall, cloaked in dark robes, their faces hidden. The elders, the guardians of the law. Their glowing eyes pierced the night. The girl saw them and froze. Her tail burned with pain, but now her fear was greater than her wound. She tried to push the human away. "They are here. Please stop." "You must run." The human turned his head for only a moment. He saw them, the watchers standing like statues against the moonlight. Their silence was heavier than words. Their eyes promised punishment, but when he turned back to the stone, there was no fear in his face, only decision. He pressed his bleeding hands against the slab one more time. His muscles screamed, his teeth ground together, and with a sound like thunder, the rock shifted again. The girl cried out, half in pain, half in disbelief. The pressure on her tail loosened for the first time since she was trapped. She could feel blood moving again. The human stumbled back, panting, his body shaking from the effort. The stone had not fully moved, but it was enough. It was no longer unbreakable. He looked at her again. His chest rose and fell with heavy breaths. He spoke softly, though his voice was rough with exhaustion. "No law can make me leave you." The girl's golden eyes filled with tears. For the first time, she believed. Behind them, the elders shifted in the shadows, silent and watchful. The human had chosen, and now the law itself would be tested. The canyon was no longer silent. Every breath, every groan of the stone, every cry of pain filled the night like a storm. The alien girl lay weakly, her tail still pinned, though the human had managed to loosen the crushing weight a little. Her glowing skin flickered like fading light, her eyes wide with both hope and fear. Above on the cliffs, the elders stood in silence. Their tall shadows stretched across the rocks like black flames. They had not spoken yet, but their presence was heavier than chains. Their eyes burned with judgment. The human knew they were watching. He could feel their stares, cold and sharp like blades. But when he looked at the girl, broken and trembling, he knew he could not stop. He wiped the sweat and blood from his face, planted his boots firmly in the dirt, and set his hands against the slab once more. The stone was enormous, older than memory, fused into the earth itself. No single person had ever moved such a weight. The human's muscles screamed with pain as he pushed. His back arched, his arms shook, and the ground itself groaned. The girl gasped in agony as the slab shifted, pressing against her tail again. "Stop!" she cried in her own language, clawing weakly at the ground. "Please, it will kill you." But he didn't stop. He gritted his teeth, his body shaking with every heartbeat. He was only one man, but he fought as if the whole world depended on this single moment. The wind screamed through the canyon, throwing dust into his eyes, stinging his cuts. He blinked it away and pushed harder. His hands tore open on the rough edges of the rock. Warm blood streaked across the cold stone. Still, he pressed on. The girl stared at him in disbelief. She had seen strength before, hunters pulling down beasts, warriors clashing in the training rings, but never like this. This was not the strength of muscle alone. This was the strength of will. The strength of someone who refused to let another die. Her heart pounded with fear for him. If the elders decided to act, they would strike him down in an instant. She tried to scream again, tried to beg him to stop, but her voice was weak and broken. The words turned into sobs. The man shifted his footing, bracing his shoulder against the rock now. His entire body strained against it. Veins rising on his neck, sweat pouring down his face. His breath came in ragged roars, filling the canyon like the growl of some ancient beast. The stone groaned again. A crack split wider. Dust rained down. The ground trembled as if the canyon itself was alive. The girl's eyes widened. She felt her tail loosen just a little more, and a spark of hope burst in her chest. "Please, please," she whispered, though she no longer knew if she was begging him to stop or to continue. The elders above shifted at last. One of them stepped forward, his cloak dragging across the stone. His voice was deep, echoing, filled with power. "Human, you break the law of the ancients. Release the stone. Let fate claim what it has chosen." The human froze for only a heartbeat. He turned his head, his face pale with exhaustion, his hands bloody. He looked up at them. His chest rose and fell like a drumbeat. Then he spat blood into the dirt, gritted his teeth, and pushed harder. The elder's voice thundered again, louder, angrier. "You defy us. You defy the order that has held this world for 1,000 generations." But the human gave no answer. His body was the answer. His struggle was his defiance. The stone groaned louder. A sharp crack rang out like thunder as part of the slab shifted at last, breaking away from the earth that had held it for centuries. The girl screamed as pain shot through her body, but then, relief. The crushing weight lifted just a little more. She felt air on her tail for the first time since she had been trapped. Tears streamed down her face. She could not believe what she was seeing. One man, one stranger, against a mountain. The human roared with effort, his voice raw, primal. He gave everything he had in that moment, strength, blood, breath, will. And then, with a final crack, the stone shifted enough for the girl's tail to slip free. She cried out, a sound of both agony and joy as she dragged her tail out from under the broken edge. The skin was bruised, torn, glowing faintly with pain, but it was free. The man collapsed forward onto his knees, his arms trembling, his breath ragged. His body was broken, but his eyes burned with fierce fire. The elders above were silent now. Their law had been broken, shattered before their eyes. Yet none of them moved. Perhaps they were waiting. Perhaps they were afraid. The girl crawled closer to him, tears falling onto the dirt. She touched his arm with her small hand, whispering in a trembling voice, "You saved me." "No one ever saves." He looked at her through the sweat and blood, his lips trembling into the smallest of smiles. He whispered hoarsely, though she could barely hear, "You're free." Above them, the elders' cloaks shifted in the wind. Their silence was heavy, dangerous. The law had been broken, and the price was yet to come. But in that moment, under the broken stone and the cold alien moons, the girl and the human shared something greater than law: hope. The alien girl's tail lay free at last, bruised and bleeding, but no longer crushed by the merciless stone. She curled it close to her body, trembling with both pain and relief. Her golden eyes blinked through tears as she looked at the human who had saved her. He knelt on the ground, shoulders slumped, arms trembling from the effort. His hands were raw and torn, blood dripping slowly onto the dirt. Sweat glistened on his face, and yet, when he raised his head, his eyes still burned with a strange fire. "You are free," he whispered, his voice hoarse. The girl opened her mouth to thank him, but her words froze, because the canyon was no longer empty. From the cliffs above, the shadows began to move. One by one, tall figures stepped into the pale light of the twin moons. Cloaked in dark robes that fluttered in the wind, their faces hidden beneath hoods, the elders of her people descended the rocky path like spirits of judgment. The girl's heart stopped. Her people had come, not to save her, but to punish. She clutched the human sleeve with trembling fingers. "They're here," she whispered in her alien tongue, her voice shaking. "They saw everything. You must run. Please, you must hide." The human followed her gaze. He saw them, 5 figures, tall and silent, their glowing eyes fixed on him. Their steps were slow but heavy, as if each one carried the weight of ancient law. The girl shook her head desperately. "They will kill you." "It is forbidden to help the trapped. The law is older than the stars themselves." The human did not answer her. Instead, he rose slowly to his feet. His legs shook, but he stood tall, his chest heaving with exhaustion. He turned to face the elders. The canyon was silent now. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. One of the elders stepped forward, taller than the rest. His voice boomed, echoing against the canyon walls like thunder. "Human, you have broken the law. You touched the stone of fate. You lifted what was chosen to remain. You defied the will of the universe itself." The girl cried out, her voice breaking. "Please, he only wanted to save me. He didn't know." The elder ignored her. His glowing eyes remained fixed on the human. "Do you not understand?" he thundered. "What you have done is forbidden. For countless generations we have obeyed the rule. The trapped are the chosen of fate. To free them is to fight against destiny. And for this, the punishment is death." The girl shook her head violently. She dragged herself forward, her injured tail leaving streaks of glowing blood on the stone. She knelt before the elders, her voice trembling with tears. "No. He saved me. I would have died. None of you came. None of you cared. But he did. He gave me life when you turned away." The other elders stirred at her words, their cloaks shifting. Some looked uneasy, but none spoke. The law was older than all of them. The human finally spoke. His voice was quiet, low, but strong enough to cut through the heavy silence. "If law demands that I let her die," he paused, his chest rising and falling, "then your law is wrong." The words echoed in the canyon like a blade cutting through stone. The elders stiffened. The leader's eyes blazed with fury. "You dare? You, a stranger, a wanderer of the stars, speak against the law of ages? You think yourself above fate?" The human did not flinch. His body was broken, but his spirit stood unshaken. He stepped forward, placing himself between the girl and the elders. His torn hands curled into fists. "I don't care how old your law is," he said. His voice was steady now, sharp with defiance. "I heard a cry for help, and no law, no fate, no threat could make me turn away." The canyon trembled with his words. The girl's eyes widened, tears streaming down her face. She had never heard such defiance. No one ever dared to challenge the elders, not even the bravest of warriors. The elders shifted again. One of them whispered, a hiss that slid through the air. "He speaks like a mad creature." Another said, softer but heavy with unease, "Or, he speaks with truth." The leader raised his hand, silencing them all. His glowing eyes burned into the human. "You are a fool," the leader said. "You speak of mercy, but mercy is weakness. Survival is strength. Our law keeps us strong." The human shook his head slowly. Your law keeps you afraid. The words struck like lightning. The girl gasped, covering her mouth. Even the other elders shifted uncomfortably, their cloaks rustling in the still night. The leader's hand trembled for a moment, then curled into a fist. His voice roared, "Enough! Your defiance will not be forgiven. You have broken our way, and now you will pay the price." The girl screamed, throwing herself in front of the human, shielding him with her small body. Her voice cracked with desperation. "No! If you want to kill him, you must kill me too." The canyon fell into silence again. The elders stared at the girl, her glowing tears falling onto the dirt. The leader's eyes narrowed. For the first time, doubt flickered in his gaze. The human placed a hand on her shoulder, steady and gentle. His voice was calm but firm. "Don't be afraid." The girl looked up at him, her heart breaking. He stood as if he carried not fear but something greater, something stronger than law. Above them, the twin moons burned brighter. The canyon waited. The law of ages trembled, and in the shadows a decision was about to be made. The canyon was silent again, but the silence was dangerous, like the stillness before a storm. The human stood tall, his body broken and bleeding, but his eyes fierce. The alien girl knelt before him, shielding him with her small frame, her glowing tears dripping onto the dirt. The elders stared from the shadows, their cloaks swaying in the night wind. None spoke. None moved. Their ancient law had been broken, and now they had to decide what would follow. The human looked down at the girl. She was trembling, clutching her bruised tail, her voice breaking. "Why did you do it?" she whispered, her alien words soft but filled with pain. "Why would you fight for me when even my own people would not?" He did not answer in her tongue, but his eyes said everything. They held no regret, only certainty. The girl pressed her hand to her tail. It was free now, no longer crushed under the stone. The pain was sharp, but the freedom was sweeter. She had thought she would die there, alone and forgotten. But she lived. She lived because one stranger had chosen to break a law older than stars. Her chest tightened with gratitude so heavy it almost hurt. Above, one of the elders finally spoke, his voice quiet, almost uncertain. "The stone has been lifted. The child is freed. But at what cost? What punishment will keep the law unbroken?" The leader's eyes flared like fire. "The punishment is death," he thundered. "It has always been death," the girl cried out. She staggered to her feet, even as her tail dragged weakly behind her. "No, you cannot!" "He saved me. He saved what you left to die. If he dies now, then what are we? What does your law make us?" Her words echoed through the canyon, trembling, small but powerful. The other elders shifted uncomfortably. They had never been challenged by one so young. Yet the human's act had already cracked something deep inside them. The human, still breathing hard, looked at the leader and spoke. His voice was rough but steady. "If saving a life is a crime, then I will always be guilty." The canyon seemed to shake with his words. The girl felt her heart pound. She had never heard anyone speak against the elders so boldly, so fearlessly. The leader raised his hand, his cloak whipping in the wind. "You defy the stars themselves," he roared. "Do you think you are greater than fate? Greater than the law that has kept us alive for centuries?" The human stepped forward, his boots grinding against the dirt. His body trembled from exhaustion, but he did not bow. His voice cut through the night like a blade. "Your law does not keep you alive. It keeps you afraid." The words struck deep. The girl gasped. Even the other elders stirred, their cloaks rustling. The leader's hand trembled, though his face remained hard. The girl's golden eyes shone with tears. She turned to the elders, her small voice trembling but fierce. "He is right. You call it fate, but it is only fear. You let children die because you are too afraid to challenge a rock. You call it law, but it is cruelty." Her words carried across the canyon, raw and desperate. For the first time, some of the elders lowered their eyes. Doubt spread among them like cracks in stone. The leader growled, furious. "Enough! The law cannot be broken. If we allow this, the foundation of our people will collapse." The girl shook her head violently, her voice breaking into a scream. "If the foundation is built on leaving children to die, then it deserves to collapse." Her cry pierced the canyon, louder than the wind, louder than the stones. The human placed a steady hand on her shoulder, grounding her, giving her strength. The silence that followed was long, heavy. The elders did not move. At last, one of them, a woman cloaked in silver, stepped forward. Her voice was softer than the leader's, but it carried wisdom. Wait. Perhaps, she said slowly, we have mistaken law for strength. Perhaps mercy is not weakness, but a greater kind of power. The leader turned on her, fury blazing in his eyes. You betray the law. But the silver-cloaked elder did not flinch. Her eyes glowed with quiet fire. No, she said. I see what the child sees. This human risked his life, his blood for one of us. He fought fate itself, and he won. That is not weakness. That is strength greater than law. The canyon stirred with whispers. The other elders shifted. Some nodded, some hesitated, but the doubt was spreading fast. The leader roared, but his voice no longer filled the canyon as before. His power was cracking. The girl's heart leapt. She clung to the human's arm, whispering through her tears, You changed them. You changed everything. The human looked down at her, his face weary, his body broken, but his eyes steady. He did not speak. He did not need to. The stone was broken. The tale was freed. And now, for the first time in countless generations, the law itself was beginning to break. Above them, the stars burned brighter, as if they too were watching. The old order trembled. And in the shadow of shattered stone, a new path had begun. The canyon air grew heavier with every heartbeat. The girl's tale was free, but the danger had only grown sharper. The elders stood above them, cloaks stirring like black wings, their glowing eyes fixed on the human who had dared to break their sacred law. The silver-cloaked elder's words still lingered in the air. Mercy is not weakness. They had shaken the silence, but they had not broken the leader's fury. The leader stepped forward, his voice thundering like a storm. You dare stand against us? Against the law that has shaped us since the first dawn? You are not of our kind, human. You do not belong here, and yet you spit on our ways. His glowing eyes narrowed. For this you must pay. The girl clutched the human's sleeve tighter, her body trembling. No, she whispered in her alien tongue, desperate. Please don't hurt him. He saved me. If he dies, then my life means nothing. The leader's gaze slid to her, cold and merciless. Child, he said, you were chosen by fate to die. His defiance spits not only on us, but on destiny itself. The girl's golden eyes widened, filling with tears. If fate demands my death, then I refuse it. She screamed. Her voice cracked, but it carried through the canyon. I choose life, and he gave it to me when you would not. The elders stirred uneasily, whispers slipping through their ranks like wind. Some looked down at the girl with shame, others with confusion. The silver-cloaked elder's eyes softened, but she remained silent. The human finally spoke. His voice was low, steady, cutting through the storm of words. Punish me if you want. But know this, your law is not strength. It is cowardice. You call it fate, but it is fear. You stand high on your cliffs while your children cry for help. You are blind. You are deaf. You are weak. The words rang out like fire. The canyon seemed to tremble under the weight of his defiance. The leader's face twisted with rage. His cloak whipped in the wind as he raised his arm. From his hand light flared, cold, bright, deadly. A weapon of ancient power, the judgment of the elders. The girl gasped, throwing herself in front of the human once more. No, please. If you kill him, you will have to kill me too. The leader's eyes burned brighter. Then so be it. For a heartbeat, time froze. The light in his hand grew, white and blinding. The canyon filled with its glow. But before he could strike, the silver-cloaked elder raised her own hand. A shield of shimmering energy spread across the ground between them, blocking the leader's attack. The light struck it and shattered into sparks that rained like falling stars. The leader turned in fury. You dare protect him? The silver elder's voice was calm but sharp as a blade. I dare question you. For the first time in 1,000 years, I see a truth brighter than our law. This human's act was not weakness. It was strength. Greater strength than all our laws combined. Gasps rippled through the canyon. The other elders shifted, torn between loyalty and doubt. The leader roared, You betray everything we are. The silver elder stepped forward, her glowing eyes burning with calm fire. No, I betray only your fear. The human stood silent, watching, but his fists clenched. He was ready to fight, even if it meant his death. The girl clung to him, her eyes wide, her heart pounding so loudly she thought the stars themselves might hear. The leader raised his hand again, his voice a thunderclap. If the law is to stand, then blood must be spilled. If none of you will do it, then I alone will. The other elders hesitated. Some looked away. Some shifted uneasily. None stepped forward to help him. The girl's heart raced. She felt her breath falter. In that moment she understood. If the human fell here, her people would learn nothing. His sacrifice would vanish into dust. Her voice cracked as she screamed, "Stop! You say law is strength, but it is this man, this outsider, who showed me strength, not you, not fate, him. If you kill him, then I swear the law will die with me." Her cry echoed through the canyon. The silence that followed was sharper than any blade. The human placed a hand on her shoulder. His voice was calm, steady. "No, the law will die with me if it must, because mercy is greater than fear." The words burned in the night like fire on stone. The leader's hand shook. His glowing weapon flickered. For the first time, doubt cracked through his fury. He saw not just a child and a stranger, but a truth he could not silence. The other elders began to murmur louder, their cloaks whispering against each other. Some nodded in agreement. Some stepped back from the leader, no longer willing to follow his command. The girl felt hope flare inside her chest, faint but growing. She turned her tear-streaked face to the human. "They're listening," she whispered. "You're changing them." The human looked at her, weary but unbroken, and gave the smallest nod. The canyon held its breath. The old law stood on the edge of breaking, and all it would take was one more choice. The canyon was on fire with silence. The human stood tall, bloodied and broken but unbending. The alien girl pressed close to him, her glowing tail curled protectively around her body. The elders loomed above, torn between anger and doubt, their ancient law trembling like a cracked pillar. The leader still held his hand high, the glow of deadly energy burning in his palm. His voice was thunder as he roared, "This ends now. If one human can break our law, then all will break. Our strength will be lost. Our people will fall." But his words no longer carried the same power. The other elders shifted, their cloaks rustling like restless wings. The silver-cloaked elder raised her voice, calm but unshakable. "No, our people will not fall. They will rise. For the first time, they will learn true strength, the strength to protect, not abandon, the strength to save, not turn away." The canyon trembled with her defiance. The leader's eyes burned hotter. "You are blind. Mercy will make us weak." The human finally spoke, his voice hoarse but clear. "Mercy does not make you weak. Mercy makes you human." The words echoed strange in their tongue, yet the meaning struck like lightning. Even those who did not know his language felt the weight of his voice. The girl's eyes filled with tears. She clung to his arm and shouted to the elders in her own tongue, "He risked everything for me. When you turned away, he stayed. When your law told him to leave me, he fought. Is that weakness? Or is that the courage none of you had?" Her words cut deeper than any blade. The elders lowered their eyes, shame flickering in their glowing gaze. One whispered, "The child speaks truth." Another murmured, "Perhaps the law is no longer our strength." The leader snarled, "You dare question me? You dare question the ancients?" His voice thundered like a storm, but the canyon no longer trembled for him. The silver elder stepped forward, her cloak shining under the moons. "The ancients are gone. We are here, and here tonight I have seen something greater than law. This human has shown us what we refuse to see. That compassion is not weakness. It is the highest strength." The leader's hand shook. The deadly glow flickered, weaker now. His authority slipped like sand through his fingers. The human took one step forward, standing taller despite his wounds. His voice cut through the heavy air. "If saving her life is a crime, then I will always be guilty. But if any of you still believe in truth, then listen. Not to me, but to her. She deserves to live. Not because fate demanded it, not because law allowed it, but because life itself is worth saving." The girl's golden eyes shone brighter than the moon's. She stood beside him, her small body trembling but unafraid. "He speaks truth," she whispered, her voice carrying across the canyon. "If your law demands that children die, then your law deserves to die instead." The elders fell into silence. The words hung like stars in the night sky, undeniable, eternal. One by one, the cloaked figures lowered their heads. Their glowing eyes dimmed in surrender. Even the whispers of doubt became words of agreement. She is right. The law is broken. The law must change. The leader roared in fury. "No, you cannot destroy what has guided us for generations." The silver elder's eyes blazed with fire as she stepped beside the human and the girl. "We do not destroy it," she said firmly. "We replace it. Tonight, a new law is born. The human watched silently, his chest rising and falling. The girl's heart pounded as she realized what was happening. The silver elder raised her voice to the canyon, to the stars above. From this night forward, no child, no person, shall be abandoned to fate. The trapped will no longer be left to die. The strong will help the weak. This is our new law. Her words rang out like a song, powerful and unshakable. The elders bowed their heads one by one until only the leader remained. He stood trembling, fury burning in his eyes. But he saw that he was alone. His power was gone. With a final growl, he lowered his hand. The deadly light vanished from his palm, fading into the night. The canyon breathed again. The girl's knees gave way as tears spilled down her cheeks. She turned to the human, her voice breaking. You did it. You changed them. You gave me life, and you gave my people a new one. The human shook his head softly. His voice was gentle now, almost a whisper. No, we did it. You had the courage to speak. I only helped you be heard. The girl's heart ached with gratitude so deep it burned inside her. She reached for his hand, her small glowing fingers curling around his scarred and bloody ones. Above them, the two moons shone brighter, as if the universe itself bore witness. The canyon, once a place of silence and death, had become the birthplace of hope. The old law had fallen. A new law had risen, and it began not with warriors or rulers, but with one human who refused to walk away from a cry in the dark.